For decades, Tom Silva appeared on your TV screen as the humble carpenter from Massachusetts. But behind the cameras, he was living a completely different life. Since 1999, he's been secretly funding something that would surprise even his closest fans. 3 families know the truth, but they were sworn to silence. It involves California wildfires, Massachusetts disasters, and a foundation nobody knew existed. When the story finally leaked in 2025, it revealed Tom's biggest secret. What he's been doing with his fortune will shock you. This isn't the Tom Silva you think you know. Tom Silva came into the world on January 17, 1947, in Lexington, Massachusetts, in a home where work never stopped and every pair of hands mattered. His father shaped stone for a living, and his older brother Dick was already learning the trade. So Tom grew up as the youngest in a family that believed skill was something you earned day by day. As a small kid, he watched his father repair stone walls around old New England homes, and by the time he turned 8, he already knew how to mix mortar with his own hands. Their house was partly built by relatives, and that place felt more like a workshop than a home. Tom stained furniture with his dad, handled old tools that left splinters, and learned careful woodworking by making small mistakes. At 10, he picked up a hammer on his own and started framing little sheds with his uncles. He also picked up a scar on his left hand when a chisel slipped, a mark he carried for life, and a reminder of how early he began. Those years between 10 and 16 kept getting bigger for him. One project stood out and stayed with him forever. His family decided to build a fallout shelter under their old 1787 colonial home. Cold War fear was everywhere, and the idea felt serious. Tom helped dig a huge 20 by 40 by 12-foot pit with nothing but shovels, pulled out heavy boulders, framed the structure, and helped finish everything by hand. It took 2 full years. When it was done, he felt something settle inside him. He knew this work was his future. It was not only about learning how things fit together, but also about learning the rhythm of building and the joy of seeing something rise from the ground. These moments shaped him and prepared him for the world he would soon take over. After graduating from Lexington High School in 1965, Tom chose a path most people did not expect. He skipped college, even though he had a scholarship offer. He felt school would never teach him what real work could. His family's history pushed him toward a trade, and stories about his great-great-grandfather fighting at the Battle of Lexington gave him a sense of pride in doing work that lasted. He trusted his hands more than anything else, and that belief carried him forward. In 1966, when he was just 19, Tom and his brother Dick decided to begin something of their own. They launched Silva Brothers Construction in Arlington with a single pickup truck and $500 worth of tools, many of them borrowed. At first, they took whatever they could get. Small attic remodels, simple upgrades, little changes for local homeowners. 10 jobs came in that first year, all through word of mouth. People saw how the brothers worked and trusted them. That quiet start on a cold winter day became the base for a company that would last for decades. 2 years later, Tom took on his first solo kitchen expansion in Belmont. He had to mill custom oak cabinets with nothing but hand tools. No power saws, no fancy machines. He worked through a harsh blizzard that delayed the lumber truck, and still he finished the entire job in just 12 days. That project brought in $2,000, a huge win for a young contractor. The homeowner told neighbors, and more doors opened. Tom learned quickly that persistence and quality could push him further than anything else. By 1970, Silva Brothers began roofing work, and Tom introduced a technique using old barn wood as a base for shingles. That idea saved clients about 20% on material costs, which helped the business grow. But one stormy day changed everything. A roof collapsed because the underbracing was not strong enough. Tom barely escaped injury. That moment shook him. It forced the brothers to upgrade their safety standards and invest in better methods. The near disaster turned into a turning point, and from that day on, they became known for doing work with careful planning and stronger support. Life kept moving. In 1972, Tom married Susan, and she quietly became the backbone of the business. She organized the books and created a small office in their garage. With her handling the numbers, Tom could take bigger projects. In 1974, he worked on a barn conversion that required pulling apart 200-year-old beams by hand. Susan kept the company steady while the jobs became larger and more demanding. Their partnership gave the business strength that skill alone could not offer. Then came the trouble in 1975. A client blamed them for a faulty foundation and brought a lawsuit that pushed the Silvas into a corner. They had to mortgage their home to deal with the fees. Instead of fighting with words, Tom went to the site every night for 3 months and rebuilt the entire structure himself. The client, stunned by his effort, dropped the lawsuit and even recommended them to others. That story spread across town. It sealed Tom's reputation as someone who stood by his work, even in the hardest moments. A little more than 10 years later, everything changed again. In 1986, producer Russell Morash from This Old House saw Tom at a trade show cutting dovetail joints. Tom explained the technique in a simple, clear way that caught Morash's attention. Soon after, Morash arrived unannounced at one of Tom's job sites with a camera crew. He asked Tom to fix a sagging porch right there. Tom finished the repair in under 2 hours, working with calm focus while the cameras rolled. That surprise test got him hired as the show's general contractor. A few months later, he appeared on TV for the first time. His debut came in Season 6, Episode 1 in March 1986. He rebuilt a Victorian staircase railing using reclaimed chestnut wood. The job looked delicate because the wood was old and brittle. Tom handled it with ease, restoring the style rather than replacing it. What amazed people was his honesty. He admitted that he had never watched television before joining the show. Everything he knew came from real jobs. His simple approach drew viewers in and made him a favorite from the start. There were moments of tension, too. During the 1987 Nantucket project, Bob Vila suggested using power nailers to speed things up. Tom refused. He wanted to hand nail all 500 shiplap boards the same way builders did in the 1800s. This slowed filming by a full day and annoyed the crew, but Tom believed the old method created a tighter finish. His commitment earned respect and showed what the show really stood for. By 1988, viewers noticed something else about Tom. Whenever he sanded wood or worked on fine details, he whistled Portuguese folk tunes. It was a habit from childhood. Those tunes helped him focus and reminded him of where he came from. Fans grew to love that small sound in the background. It felt like a glimpse into his world, and it became part of his charm. In 1989, a frightening moment nearly ended in tragedy. While filming in Bedford, a scaffold collapsed while Tom was working on exterior siding. A cameraman stood right below. Tom pushed the man out of the way and took the fall himself. He fractured his right wrist, but refused to stop working. He kept filming with his wrist splinted, doing whatever he could. The crew never forgot it. That act showed how deeply he cared about his team and the work. Tom Silva's big rise did not happen in a loud way. It happened in 1990, inside a quiet 1790 colonial in Concord, Massachusetts. The house had been left to rot. Floors sagged, beams were tired, and almost every corner looked like it might give up. Tom did not treat it like a normal renovation. He treated it like a time machine. He hunted down original pegged joints from salvaged ship timbers, not because it was easier, but because it was right. Then he spent over 400 hours hand-cutting mortise and tenon joints. Slow work, hard on the hands. Yet every cut matched the late 18th century way of building. When it was done, people could feel the honesty in it. The New York Times wrote about it. Preservation societies praised it. Builders across the Northeast started copying his respect for old craft. And that one abandoned house turned into the moment his name began to travel. 2 years later, in 1992, he was back on this old house with a problem that every old home hides: uneven floors. Most builders used standard shims and hoped for the best. Tom wanted better than hope. During the Belmont House overhaul, he created what people later called the Silva shim method. He used layered cedar wedges, thin and smart, and he stacked them in a way that let him dial in the exact height without forcing the floor. That tiny change did a big thing. It stopped cracks. It stopped squeaks. It let the floor settle with subtle shifts instead of fighting the house. People watching at home could see the difference right away. Trade schools across New England picked it up and started teaching it. If a home had sagging floors from before 1900, this method became a go-to fix, and even today, you still hear carpenters mention it like a quiet rule passed down. Then came 1994, one of those moments that could have ended badly. Tom was doing a live demo on this old house, cutting with a handsaw, calm as always. Suddenly, the blade snapped. It shot back and nearly hit his thigh. He got a deep cut. The set froze for a second. But Tom did not panic. He wrapped the wound right there on camera and joked, "Tools have minds of their own." Viewers loved it, not because it was scary, but because he stayed steady. That clip kept getting replayed in behind-the-scenes specials. It also pushed a bigger talk about tool safety on TV and in real job sites. The lesson was clear. Accidents can happen, but a real craftsman knows how to stay in control. By 1995, the show brought him into a Newton attic conversion, and this time the story became personal. His nephew Charlie was there, learning under him. The attic needed custom corbels carved from butternut wood. Tom believed those corbels mattered for strength and for the look. Charlie pushed back. He wanted prefabricated corbels to save time. That suggestion hit a nerve. The two argued hard, the kind of argument that is not only about wood, but about what you believe a trade should be. Tradition versus speed. Old hands versus new shortcuts. In the end, Tom held the line. The project succeeded. And later, Charlie admitted those strict standards were what shaped him into a better craftsman. In 1996, Tom took another step that made his work even sharper. He expanded Silva Brothers by adding a dedicated mill shop. It was not just a shop with fresh machines. He went old school. He personally calibrated a 1920s planer until it could produce flawless edge-glued panels. Those panels ended up in a high-profile Boston Museum exhibit, showing American craftsmanship done the hard way, with period tools and methods. The exhibit got national attention. People saw that modern restorations did not have to erase history. You could build new life into old homes without breaking their soul, and Tom was proving it again and again. Years passed, and the work kept coming. In October 2002, his first Ask This Old House segment aired. The job was a historic home in Woburn, Massachusetts, with a slate roof that would not stop leaking. Slate can last over 100 years, so people think it is unbreakable. But Tom found the truth in the details. Thermal expansion over decades had cracked exactly 47 slate tiles. The roof deck also lacked proper ventilation, which made the stress worse. He did not patch it with cheap replacements. He replaced each cracked tile with handmade replicas, matching the old 19th century look. It took several days and special tools. Viewers learned something simple and powerful. Even the strongest materials need care, and real slate work is rare for a reason. In spring 2005, another home called him in. This one sat near the coast, and the hardwood floors were warping. High humidity was cupping the boards and lifting them, and a full replacement would have cost a fortune. Tom did not rush to tear it out. Instead, he dug a 24-inch deep trench around the room's perimeter and built a hidden dehumidification system. The idea came from 18th century cellar tricks used to protect grain stores. Old wisdom, new materials. The moisture dropped, the wood calmed down, and the homeowners avoided about $10,000 in future repairs. The fix felt like a clever secret, and it spread fast among people living in humid places. Behind the camera, though, there was a cost to all this work. Years of lifting, bending, and pushing through jobs finally caught up with him. In 2007, he went through 2 major back surgeries within months. It forced him off set for recovery, but he came back just weeks after the second surgery. He did not show the pain on camera. The crew changed schedules, and he used braces and careful positioning to keep demonstrating the same techniques. That comeback was later shown in a behind-the-scenes special, and it reminded every viewer that the trade is not only about skill, it is about endurance, and the body pays for every good job you see. By 2010, Tom was still pushing for balance between old and new. He led a series on energy-efficient windows in a 1920s bungalow. The homeowners wanted comfort, but did not want to lose the home's character. Vinyl windows were cheap and popular, but Tom rejected them. He chose custom-stained mahogany sashes that matched the original woodwork, then installed airtight seals. Over the first year, heating bills dropped by about 30%. That meant hundreds of dollars saved. The bigger point was simple. Traditional materials can beat modern ones if they are built and sealed the right way. And historic homes do not have to look modern to feel modern. In fall 2012, a stormy shoot in Maine pushed him into another fast decision. A house was at risk of water damage, and the storm was already on top of them. Tom built a quick-fix gutter system using recycled copper flashing. They cut it to fit the roof edge, secured it with special fasteners, and did it in the rain. The way it was filmed made it feel like a rescue mission. The clip went viral among DIY people because it was fast, affordable, and clever. Recycling copper instead of buying new parts also gave it a clean, practical vibe that people liked. By 2015, Silva Brothers had grown big enough that Tom felt ready to pass the daily running to family. He handed the operational reins to Charlie. The company had 25 employees now and was bringing in about $5 million in annual revenue. Even then, Tom did not disappear. Every week, he visited job sites and audited them himself. That habit saved a project in 2016. He spotted a major framing error in a 2-story addition. A load-bearing wall was misaligned and could have caused a structural collapse if nobody caught it. Tom stopped it in time. The homeowner was saved from a 6-figure disaster, and the crew learned that no detail is too small if you want to sleep at night. In 2018, the business shifted again because the world was shifting too. Demand for green building was rising, so Silva Brothers pivoted. Tom led a solar-integrated garage build in Arlington. It was not just panels on a roof. He handcrafted bamboo trusses, chosen for strength and low carbon footprint. Then nature tested it. A Category 2 hurricane hit with winds over 100 mm. The garage held firm. No major damage. The project won a regional sustainability award, and it became proof that traditional craft could walk right into the future without losing its backbone. In 2019, they learned another hard lesson, this time about trust. Silva brothers ordered premium lumber for a major job. What arrived was thin, cracked, and weak, a supplier scam. The loss totaled $50,000. Tom confronted the vendor, refused to pay, and pushed for an investigation. After tense talks and legal pressure, he recovered most of the funds. Then he tightened every supplier rule they had. The story spread as a warning to other contractors. Good work starts with good materials, and you cannot be soft about it. By 2020, Tom was thinking less about growth and more about legacy. In his backyard, on a simple workbench, he taught his 14-year-old grandson how to do dovetail joints. He showed the old method he had mastered decades before, but this time he also used modern safety gear like eye protection and gloves, things he ignored in his own youth. It was a small scene, but it carried a big meaning. Craft matters, safety matters, and family matters enough that you pass it all forward together. Then in 2022, another high-pressure job came in. Silva brothers got a contract to restore a historic Lexington inn. The place carried 300-year-old pine beams that could not be replaced if they were ruined. Tom oversaw the reinstallation, reinforcing each beam for seismic safety while keeping its original look untouched. They used custom-fitted steel brackets hidden inside the wood, so modern codes were met without changing the face of history. Preservationists praised it, city officials praised it, and for Tom, it probably felt like a full-circle moment. He started by saving a 1790 house in 1990, and decades later he was still doing the same thing, only at a bigger level, with the same careful hands. Tom Silva stepped into 2023 with the same steady hands he had used for decades, and he carried them into a world that looked nothing like the one he grew up building in. When he visited Austin for a special episode about 3D printed homes, he didn't just stand around and admire the new walls rising from nozzles, he wanted to feel them. So he grabbed a drill and tested the joints himself. At first glance, the printed layers looked smooth and fast, but when he pressed his weight into the drill, he felt gaps that only real joinery could fix. He said the future might not belong to only machines or only tradition. It might be stronger if both worked together. When the episode aired in early 2025, builders argued for weeks. Some said he was clinging to the old ways. Others said he saw something they were ignoring. Yet everyone agreed that he was forcing the industry to slow down and think. Then came 2024, and Boston felt alive when Tom walked into the Trade Expo for his woodworking masterclass. People had been lining up since dawn. By the time he stepped onto the floor, more than 5,000 faces had filled the hall. It was the biggest crowd the expo had ever seen. Tom didn't rush. He laid out a cherry board and spent 2 straight days shaping it into a dining table. His highlight came when he hand-planed for 48 hours without stopping. The sound of metal against wood filled the whole space, and people leaned in to watch the grain rise under his touch. Afterward, more than 80% of the attendees said they planned to return to hand-planing instead of relying on machines. Tool shops saw a 35% jump in traditional tool sales. And all of that started with Tom sliding a plane across one board for 2 long days. But early 2025 tested him harder than any expo. In January, he fell from a ladder during a siding job in Massachusetts and fractured his hip. Doctors warned him that people over 70 often take months to get back on their feet. He listened. Then he ignored the timetable. 6 weeks later, he was back on Ask This Old House, showing viewers his new ladder routine. He taught them small steps, slow climbing, and something new he called ladder checkpoints. Every 10 feet he stopped, breathed, checked his balance, and then moved again. Older DIYers wrote him letters saying his honesty saved them from making the same mistake he made. Soon after his return, he teamed up with his nephew Charlie for a tiny home project in New England. They wanted zero waste. Every board mattered. They used reclaimed barn wood for the whole frame and turned leftover scraps into brackets and shelves. The build became a 10-part online series. It reached more than 1,000 DIYers and pushed many of them to rethink how much they threw away. Charlie said the secret was Tom's rule of waste nothing. People loved the build so much that similar tiny homes started popping up across the region. Even with all that work, Tom was still thinking about something deeper. By late 2025, he was 78 and still running quality checks at Silva Brothers. People whispered that he might retire soon. He shook his head. He said he would keep building as long as he had breath. And he began writing a memoir. He wanted to tell stories about mistakes, ethics, patience, and the quiet moments that shaped him. One early excerpt described a single bad nail that once caused a home inspection disaster. That moment changed how he treated every board afterward. The memoir is set for release in 2026, and publishers are already calling it a must-read. Away from the spotlight, he kept a gentler life. For more than 50 years, he and his wife Susan had visited Portuguese festivals in Massachusetts. Each June, they joined the Provincetown Portuguese Festival, which had reached its 78th year. In 2025, the festival ran from June 27th to June 29th, and more than 10,000 people attended. Tom carved wooden rosaries, a skill his grandfather taught him back in the 1970s. Festival organizers often asked him to show his carving steps. Locals saw him as part of the festival itself. At home, he retreated into his small Arlington workshop, filled with tools from the 1950s. He restored antique planes, chisels, and levels that were often more than 100 years old. Tool collectors said pieces like his could sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. His rare Diston handsaw from the 1820s cost him $50 at a barn auction in 2015 and was now worth around $5,000. He sold many restored tools and donated the money to trade scholarships. Each tool in his workshop had a story, and he brought everyone back to life using materials from its own era. And then came the secret that surprised even his closest fans. By 2025, he had collected 200 vintage saws. It became one of the largest private saw collections in the country. The prized Diston handsaw sat at the center of it, glowing like a museum piece. But hidden behind that hobby was something even bigger. Since 1999, he had quietly funded fire recovery efforts for families in California and Massachusetts. 3 families rebuilt their homes because of him. He never took credit. People only learned about it through eyewitnesses who saw the Silva Brothers Foundation step in without asking for thanks. Even without using social media, his influence spread everywhere. DIY YouTube channels copied his techniques and gained more than 10 million views every year. People watched old episodes, studied his joinery, and hunted for antique saws and planes at shows. Many tools sold out because of him. Forums buzzed with debates about whether his methods were still the best. And many who entered carpentry said it started with watching Tom fix something on TV. In April 2024, he stepped onto a different kind of stage. The National Housing Hall of Fame inducted him and honored his 38-year journey on this old house. Surveys showed his work inspired more than 50 million viewers to try home projects safely. He became part of American housing history, and this was not a small honor. It placed him among the most trusted voices in construction. Alongside all this, he kept teaching. Every year, he mentored 20 apprentices through a workshop built on patience. Since 2010, more than 250 carpenters had trained under him. Data showed they made 15% fewer joinery mistakes than those who had not learned his slow and careful approach. These workshops shaped a generation that refused shortcuts and valued precision. By July 2025, he began talking about a final special for this old house. He said he would step back soon, and the special would air in 2026. It would run about 90 minutes and include unseen outtakes, on-set stories, co-star interviews, and memories from homeowners whose walls he rebuilt. Producers were digging through thousands of hours of footage to find rare moments,